Hello everyone, and welcome to Sim Racing Malta for the first round.
One second.
Okay.
They called it madness. Building the car of your dreams yourself. Madness. Putting the engine in the back. Madness. Launching a turbocharged super sports car in the midst of a worldwide oil crisis. Madness. Taking a sports car into the desert and taking the insights gained there back onto the streets. Madness. Building the first hybrid car on Earth. And when its time had come, the fastest one on Earth. Once more, they called it madness. Let them call it madness. We call it courage. The courage to build a sports car with 4 business class seats. The courage to upgrade not only the driving, but also the driver. The courage to transfer an unmistakable design DNA and create a luxury saloon that was born on the racetrack and is at home on the roads. The new Panamera. Courage changes everything.
Volkswagen.
Gigabit Internet ist auf Malta. Gaudi mill Gigapower bis Manualita Flexi.
Black beats came to make it hotter. We beat the box starter. Bubbling up just like lava, heated like a sauna. Penetrating through your body armor. Rhythmically we massage ya.
And welcome to Sim Racing Malta for the very first round of the GT3 Porsche 911 Cup from Sim Racing Malta. This is a very exciting series of which we've never really seen the likes of before. It's done very, very professionally, and I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how it plays out. One thing that has really made this series so much of a professional setup is how the drivers were selected. There was a qualifying server, and the top 20 drivers around the it was the Bathurst server that the drivers had to tackle. So a very big challenge. Definitely test the best of the drivers, and the top 20 drivers from that time trial server have been picked to race in this series. I believe we only have 15 people here today as drivers, but still it should be a very, very high quality race. And the actual quality of the field will be one of the best in sim racing. Plenty of familiar faces on the grid today. We've got several people who have raced in Sim Racing Malta casual races before. For example, we have Bernard Vella, who of course won both races in the GT3 car. You see the entry list on the screen now, I believe. We have some other drivers you'll recognise: Omar Barbara, Clinton Falzon. They have all raced in Sim Racing Malta casual races before, as have Sandro Zara, Sandro Zara. But we also have some new names today. We have the very well-known and very highly renowned likes of Risto Capit and Richard Schaefer from the ACR Zaxby team. Very, very high-ranking team there, which produces some of the best racing drivers in the world. We have a Middle Eastern team, Sim Racing Middle East, Justin Baruki and Garo Serafian, both from Lebanon there. We have Waters Automotive with Kevin Siggy and Gergo Baldi. We have Brendan Tabo, that's another driver. He is another driver who has done Sim Racing Malta casual races. Dario Andreoni, Damien Lempart, Ruben Bonici as well. So plenty of very high quality drivers in this series today, and certainly a lot to talk about and to look forward to. So definitely a lot to look forward to. Some high quality teams there and some high quality drivers. And so far on the server, the top driver appears to be Kevin Siggy. Of course, this is only practice at the moment though. So definitely time for things to change and for the order to completely turn on its head. And we will be getting going for qualifying really quite soon, actually. So not long to wait at all. And then we can get this series underway. The Continental Cars Ltd Porsche 911 GT3 Championship of 2018, the first actual championship launched by Sim Racing Malta. There you see the box full of the series organisers and also live stewards. Of course, one thing that makes this series very, very highly unique is the fact we do have live stewards watching the race as it's happening and judging things such as track limits, excursions, incidents on track, possible pit limit infringements, because we do have rules about pit times and what you're allowed to do in the pits today. And that means that there's certainly a high degree of professionalism in play here, and hopefully we will get we will get a very good start to the season, very professional one. Right, so the program for today is just coming up onto my screen now. We have a race briefing coming up at 10:50, so that's in 5 minutes time, followed and that'll last for about 10 minutes. We will then have about a half-hour practice session rather, for the drivers to just get used to their cars one last time, put in some last-minute laps and see how the car feels just before the qualifying. Possibly get in a bit of hot lap practice to just set them up for qualifying perfectly. Then we have that qualifying session, which will take about 10 to 15 minutes. I believe it's a 10-minute time session. And that is where the quick drivers will really rise to the top. That's where the quick drivers will attempt to put themselves at the top of the order, and we'll see the quickest lap times of the weekend probably put on the board. We will then have a short break before going into our race, and that race is an hour long race with a mandatory pit stop from 45 minutes to go to 35 minutes to go. And then after that, we will have some interviews, and that will be the end of the show. So that's what we've got to look out for today. And the driver briefing is going to start in about 3 minutes.
Yeah, Joshua, that's right. Our driving briefing will be starting in 3 minutes. Actually, now we just instructed all the drivers to go on to our briefing channel, and obviously enough, very soon we'll go up to that channel to listen to the briefing live.
Okie dokie. That was the voice of Adrian Figolo, who is, of course, one of the organisers of this championship, and I believe also one of the live stewards, as well as Mr. Mifsud, who is running this championship alongside him, as well as a few other people. And as I said, the live stewards will be watching this and making sure that there's no fouls to punish the offender in the way they deem possible. One thing that other sim racing leagues do that we have elected not to do in this series is restart the race if there is too much carnage at the start. If any of you saw the casual race we had at Sepang in the Formula Renault 3.5 cars, there was a decent amount of carnage at the start of race 2 in that series, and many drivers called for the race to be restarted, but this series is supposed to be as realistic as possible, and the argument from the stewards was that if that had happened in real life, you would be out of the race, your car would be damaged, there would be no restarting for you, and therefore, in the interest of realism, the races will not be restarted, no matter how disastrous they may be.
Yeah, it's good also to mention the whole crew here, which actually started with. We have with us, as you said, Justin, who's one of the directors of Sim Racing Malta, who's the guy on the technical side of it. There's also George Muscat with us, who's also a live steward today, who's also a director of Sim Racing Malta, and myself, one of the directors also of Sim Racing Malta. And together with us, we have also Charlene, who will be assisting the stewards in their reports, which is actually the job of a secretary of the meeting, and also Gilmore, who's looking also at the comments going on Facebook and the other streaming channels we have.
Jolly good. Right, the drivers are now being called into the briefing channel of the Discord chat. So that means that all of the drivers are going to gather into one audio call, and they're going to be briefed by one of the race stewards as to the rules of the race, the general standards of the race, and what's going to be expected from them. So that's what's up next on the program, and I believe we'll be heading over there quite shortly.
Yes, quite soon. I'll be instructing you very soon when we go into the briefing channel. I'm just sending the last instructions to the driver to join the channel, and we'll go there very soon.
Okay, so the practice session that we just saw there, or the I should say test session, because official practice has not yet started and won't until after the briefing, was actually topped, from what I can see, by Brandon Tubborn. Although that oh no, that was the last session. This is a brand new session that's been loaded up, and none of this is actually going to be affecting the grid order or the actual race order in the slightest. We're just doing some last minute testing before we get the drivers into the driver briefing room, and then that's what's going to happen next. Still a couple of drivers on track, so we're just waiting for everyone to be ready. So about 10 out of the 15 drivers are in that room at this precise moment. Of course, we have 15 drivers, 15 of the best drivers in Malta and in the world of sim racing assembled for this event today. And I tell you what, they're all going to be extremely hungry for results here to prove themselves on the top level of sim racing. Of course, the prize for this is one that everyone wants. The winner of the championship is going to get a Porsche on-track experience in Istanbul. And of course, the aim of Sim Racing Malta is to provide the drivers with the best opportunity that they can possibly have to move up the ranks and possibly even get themselves into real racing. There are a couple of drivers on this grid today who have done the odd race or two in reality outside of sim racing. But Sim Racing Malta, of course, is set up with the aim of providing these drivers with even more opportunities and basically seeing who they can help in what way. That's also why the entry list was selected so carefully, and the fact that there was a practice server set up, a time trial server rather, set up to find the fastest drivers we could possibly find, the fastest drivers to take this car around the fearsome Bathurst circuit. And the result we have come up with is a rather ferocious entry list.
We'll be going now to the briefing channel, so that will assist for the briefing of the drivers.
Okay.
please note that the race must be maybe a little bit slippery in the beginning. So first corner will be please take care. We are not going to make any restart or whatsoever. The only restart there will be if the server is down and we have to start all over again. We don't want no bumping. Please note that there is live stewards will be monitoring the race, and we will send you. We will give you penalties, and we will inform you with any penalties or investigation that will be on you. The penalties will be of 10, 20, or a drive-through. That will be drive-through can have to be carried out in the following three laps. Then regarding pit rules, there is you can pit as much as you want in the first but there is an obligatory pit window that is between the 45 and the 35 minute, counting down from the 60-minute race time. The pit will be closing at 35 minutes. In this pit, it's obligatory that one can go in and have to make a tire change or a fuel. The pit will reopen at 15 minutes to go, but it's not mandatory. You can go in any time at the pits, but that time between the 45 and 35, everybody must go in, even if you had done a pit before that time. We don't want drive-through in that time. Failing to pit in that time window incur to disqualification from the race. Drive-through have to be done within the 3 laps issued. Example. Have a safe. Just to let you know, the game will automatically penalize you for 3 wheels off track and pit lane exit cut. So. And please respect the blue flags issued when an overlapping car is in front of you. Have a nice race and enjoy. See you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So here we are back. The practice session will be starting in 50 seconds.
"45 seconds now until the start of the practice session, and this will be roughly half an hour long. So we're just waiting for the first chance. We will see the first chance or the last chance rather, for the drivers to get used to their cars and run it in qualifying spec. I expect. Just set up their qualifying setups, make some last-minute changes possibly, or just simply get used to driving it quicker and quicker and quicker until they feel they're ready for qualifying, or until qualifying starts. Ready or not.
Practice is on.
It is indeed, yeah. We're about 20 seconds into the session. We have about 29 minutes and 40 seconds left. And the first driver out onto the track is going out now. Who is that? There are a couple of drivers, I believe, going out of the pits now. Brandon Tavern is one of the first out. So let's watch him having a go. This corner here dips right downhill. You'll notice how steep it is, and that's Paddock Hill Bend. Very dangerous, actually, with the gravel on the outside. I've seen many cars getting out over there, digging into the gravel and rolling over in real life. But of course, because this is a simulator, an accident like that won't hurt quite so badly. Still, it'll certainly hurt your pride, and it'll hurt your race, so you do not want to experience anything like that. Now, down the back straight. We're going up to a very famous dip in the track there. That's Pilgrim's Drop. Up to Hawthorne and down a short straight into a slight right-hand kink. It's very much a square at that part of the track, up at the top end of the circuit. If you look at it as a map, you have sort of a square of corners at the top of the hill before you go back down through clearways and back down to the start of the track. And that square, of course, consists of Hawthorne Bend, Westfield Bend, and Sheens, just after Dingledale. But of course, the only corner stopping it from rejoining itself is Stirling's, the 90-degree left-hander before clearways. Very challenging circuit, this Brands Hatch circuit is. Of course, not any room for runoff at all. We have grass on one side of the track, gravel on the other, sometimes grass on both sides, and the barrier is just behind that, waiting to pounce at any moment. Even the curbs are very angry at this circuit. It's very easy to kind of run over the curb and get spat off into the gravel or into the barrier, if worst comes to worst. So the drivers have to be very, very careful at this circuit. Of course, we heard in the driver briefing that the game automatically penalises track limits excursions. I don't think we'll be seeing many of those today, because if you do go outside of the track limits, put all four wheels over the line, like I just saw, who was that? Someone did it. Brandon Tabone doing. The chances are you get in the grass and you lose time. In Brandon's case there, he ran over the inside of the curb, so he won't have lost time through that. He would have gained time, and that would be a penalised lap time there. Well, obviously not yet, because he goes top of the order with it, but he is the first person to set a lap. So top of the order for now is pretty much a guaranteed. But you can see just how difficult this track is, because apart from just the vicious curbs and the grass and the gravel and the barriers, we also have plenty of elevation changes as well, as the track goes up Pilgrim's Rise, down Pilgrim's Drop, down up towards Dingledale, down towards Stirling's, down towards Clearways, up towards Paddock Hill, down after Paddock Hill. It very much is a roller coaster of a lap. And often, if you don't have a car with suspension that can handle it, then that can really punish you in the race. Definitely a sort of soft suspension track, this one is. Not so much of a handling circuit like Paul Ricard or Silverstone. This is very much a roller coaster of a track, up and down and round, and no room for error. Tracks like this are known as Monacos without barriers, and hopefully we won't see too many accidents today. Of course, 15 drivers in the race, so not the massive fields that I've seen racing at Brands Hatch in the past, and there shouldn't be too many driver-to-driver contacts, fingers crossed, but certainly this is a track that can bite. So far, we've just had a new top-of-the-order lap time, which is from Justin Baruki, with a 1:26.698 in the Middle East Sim Racing Middle East car. Although Richard Schaefer now goes to the top, so Richard Schaefer in the second ACR Zaxby car puts his car at the top of the order with a 1:26.230. The times are continually dropping, and that's a sign that the drivers are still warming up in this session, just getting their tyres to the right temperature. Now, tyre blankets are allowed here, so that means that when the tyres are fitted to the car, they do already have a degree of heat in them, and that of course helps grip, because if the tyre is warmer, the particles within the tyre are going to expand and therefore you have more surface area of the tyre touching the ground. So that means more grip, and it means the drivers have to work on keeping their tyres at the optimum temperature, as Justin Barucki now goes to the top of the order again by 4/10 over Richard Schaefer. So the P1 lap time is now 1 minute 25.811, and definitely still room for improvement. The times are still dropping and still dropping, and it shouldn't be too long before we see another driver go to the top of the order. One driver I really am looking out for and looking forward to seeing more from is Risto Capit, because Risto topped the qualifier leaderboard, so he was the top driver when they went around Bathurst, and that of course sets him up really well for this series and shows us that he is going to be a driver to look out for. Talking of drivers to look out for, excuse me. Talking of drivers to look out for, Hani Al Sabti has put his car now at the top of the order. So Hani Al Sabti at the top of the order by, as near as makes no difference, a second, and that is a 124.853. So Hani Al Sabti at the top of the order so far from Justin Barucki, Gergo Baldi, who is another race winner in GPVWC Super League, much like Risto Capit. And then we have Dario Andreoni in 4th and Richard Schaefer in 5th. So that is the order so far. But definitely still room for improvement. Very quick lap from Hani Al Sabti, but the drivers behind have some catching up to do. So we have 21.5 minutes remaining in this practice session. Roughly, well, that would have been 8.5 minutes gone then, and still 21.5 to go. And it's still Hani Al Sabti at the top of the order. The top 5 are, as I read them out just now, followed by Bernard Vella in 6th, Brandon Tabone in 7th, then it's Gary Serafian, Omar Barbara, and Clinton Falzon. Risto Capit now puts his car second. So Capit puts his car second, although still almost a second behind Hani Al Sabti. So Al Sabti is really, really running away with this practice session so far. Not that that makes any difference to the actual grid slot, grid position, or the race order, because there is still plenty of time for things to change. And of course, practice is not related to qualifying or the race. It's qualifying and what the driver's doing qualifying alone that decides their grid position for the main race. But of course, it certainly doesn't do you any harm to stake your claim in practice and just prove that you're quicker than your opponents and get the first blow, really, the first attack. And that is what these drivers are attempting to do now, to just get used to the cars. And well, they would have been getting used to these cars all week, of course. They would have been practicing and practicing. But of course, this is the last time they're going to be driving these cars before they go for a full-on qualifying attack. So as Hani Al Sabti again goes fastest in the 3rd sector, I believe. No, that's on his last lap, so he's on an out lap now. Although I tell you what, he's fastest of anyone in the 1st sector, so this isn't an out lap. In fact, it was his 3rd sector of his out lap that was faster. So as he was gearing up to go onto this lap, he set the fastest sector 3 time of the session, or at least I believe that's what my data is telling me. We now have 3 drivers under the 1 minute mark. Before, well, only about 30 seconds ago, we only had 2 drivers below, Hani Al Sabti and Risto Capit. Not below the 1 minute mark, I mean behind the 1 second behind the leader mark. And unless you don't count the leader, we only had 1 driver behind, who was Risto Capit in 2nd. He was 9/10 behind. But Capit, Baldi and Barucki have now gone faster Not faster than Al Sabdi. Al Sabdi is still top of the order, but Capit, Baldi, and Baruki are now only 4 tenths, 5 tenths. Oh, change that. Al Sabdi goes even quicker. So Al Sabdi goes to the top of the order again, as he always was, but this time with an even quicker lap of a 1:24.551. And that is 6 tenths faster than Risto Capit in second. And now only Capit and Baldi are within a second of him. So although Capit has just improved his best lap, and Capit now goes or stays in second, but has gone 2 tenths behind Hadi Al Sabdi. So he's getting closer and closer, and we'll see what he can do very soon. "17 minutes remaining in the session now, so the time until qualifying is ticking down and down and down, and some of these drivers will be feeling right on edge to get their car set up in time for quali, especially the guys further down the order who will be panicking and thinking, I didn't think the opponents were this far ahead. I certainly know the feeling. I've done a few sim races myself, so I know what being at the back feels like. But I've also had some taste of being at the front as well. Not anywhere near as many, but I know what if. Be pushing to just decrease and decrease their lap times in these practice sessions to set them up as well as they possibly can for the race. For qualifying first, of course. Qualifying first and then the race. And of course the qualifying setup and the race setup are likely to be very, very different. Of course, in qualifying, you want your car to go as quickly as possible around one lap. In the race, you want them to do that and conserve the tyres and conserve the fuel. And you want to make it so that the car doesn't try to spin you off the circuit at any given moment. And you want your car to be as fast as you can get it, but as reliable as you can get it as well. So you'll often see lap times in the race being slightly or significantly slower than those in qualifying, but over a long period of time the race setups do much better. And of course it is a long race, it's a 1 hour race, giving plenty of time for things to change. We often see changing stories in a race where a driver will start really, really well. Ooh, big spin there for Kevin Siggy. He's gone into the barrier. Now that won't really matter too much because you can bring your car immediately back into the pits via teleport, and then just carry on in the session as if nothing happened. Unlike you can in reality, but anyway. And of course, because this isn't qualifying, that won't affect any quick laps that could significantly help his race or anything like that. He's not really cost himself too much with that accident there, but certainly an embarrassing thing to do, and he won't want to do it too much. Also, not good to get into a habit of it before a race either. But anyway, incidentally, Siggy has moved himself up into third place since last time I commented on him. So Kevin Siggy has put in a respectable lap of 1:24.888 to put him in third position, just behind Risto Capit and ahead of Gergo Baldi. So the order with 13.5 minutes remaining is Al Sabdi, Capit, Siggy, Baldi, Schaefer, Bariki, Andrioni, Vella, Serafian, and Tabo. Those are the top 10 drivers here. And Hani Al Sabdi is looking rather comfortable out the front at the moment. So definitely in a very good position is Hani Al Sabdi. But definitely still time for things to change. Also, good day to everyone joining us on the Facebook page. We are live on Facebook as I am watching this on the 19th and 18th. We have several viewers in at this precise moment. About 447 at the moment, so that's a very decent number. Jamal Gandor's in this. He was in one of the last casual races that we did, as well as Joseph Baruki, related to Justin Baruki, probably. Justin Mifsud's wife, Rachel, is in this as well, as is Mikhail Machijevsky, Joseph Basutil, and several others as well. So good day to all of you, and thanks for joining us. And we hope you will stay with us for the entire duration of the broadcast, or as much of it as you can, and that you will enjoy the whole thing. This broadcast is brought to you by Sim Racing Malta, as well as Sim News TV, and you can check out the Sim News TV YouTube channel for more great racing action across the whole of sim racing, from GPVWC to events like this Sim Racing Malta series. Definitely a YouTube channel that I would recommend.
So, Joshua, I would like to obviously thank all our sponsors for this championship to happen, and obviously the sponsors that support Sim Racing Malta and all our activities. I'll start with obviously Continental Cars Limited, Porsche, Sim News TV, World of Sim Racing, Melita, Textor Limited, Extreme Power Sport, and then obviously the brands which are Genesis, Husingveld, Fanatec, and Sparco. Without the help of these sponsors, obviously won't be here today assisting for this first round of the Porsche Cup Sim Racing Malta 2018.
Of course, and one of the most impressive things about this sim is just how many sponsors there are and the high quality of those sponsors. I mean, for example, Porsche, who of course made the cars we are racing right now. Porsche is a world-renowned car brand, and they stand for absolute quality and speed. Very precise car manufacturer as well. So definitely good to have on your CV as a sponsor, and that just proves the quality of this series. A few more people in the live stream now: Javier de Carvalho, Jason Muscat, who of course won the last casual race that was held by Sim Racing Malta. Madcape Racing Team, Madcape of course is actually running a driver today. I believe it is. If I can just double check that quickly, we have. I've completely lost the list. It's up here somewhere. Okay, it's one of the. Well, I know it's a very nice black liveried car. Oh dear. Okay, that's better. Right, so it is Hani Al Sabdi racing for Madcape. I don't know why I didn't remember that, seeing as Hani Al Sabdi is right up the top of the order at this precise moment, with a very, very quick lap time as well. One that I know I wouldn't be able to replicate in weeks. And those lap times, of course, are probably going to get even quicker for qualifying, because the drivers will have all of that extra pressure on them that extra will to go quickly, because of course, if you qualify first, if you put your car at the top of the order in qualifying, then you start at the very front of the pack for the main race, and that can really help your race to go well. It's almost like having a head start, really, starting on pole position, and that is why the drivers will be pushing so hard in qualifying, because it really is that important, especially at a track like this where overtaking is very difficult and there isn't much room for error. Only really one long straight on this track, and that is the straight that goes along just after Surtees, and then down Pilgrim's Drop. But even that isn't really that much of a long straight, and because there is a hill involved, the slipstream is reduced, and that can really have an effect on the difficulty of overtaking on a track such as this. Meanwhile, Kevin Siggy has moved ahead of Risto Capet with a lap of 1:24.690. So Kevin Siggy is on the charge. Well, he's now in the pits actually, but he has been on the charge, and Kevin Siggy has put himself into second ahead of Risto Capet, who is now in. He is a driver to look out for, and the sort of driver that we really need in Sim Racing Malta. Of course, as I said earlier, the aim of Sim Racing Malta is to provide the best drivers with opportunities to expand their careers further into real racing, further into sim racing. It's a very good thing to have on a racing CV. Sim Racing Malta is, and that is why we need drivers with proper talent, such as Risto Capet. Now, who is on a lap at the moment? We have a couple of drivers on track. Of course, not that many people, or not as many people as earlier, are actually on track at the moment, because we only have about 6 minutes of the session remaining, and that means that everyone has been out and set a lap by this point, and some are choosing to just sit back and relax at this point and not use up too much energy before qualifying. Richard Schaefer is on a lap at the moment, but I don't think that he's going. Oh, he is going quicker. So Richard Schaefer puts in a very quick first sector time, and that is a good start to the lap. So we'll see what Richard Schaefer can do on this lap. The middle sector timing beam, I believe, is just as the cars are going through Dingley Belt, just before Sheen Curve. Named, of course, after Barry Sheen, the motorbike racer, and that will be about there. So there we go. It's another quick sector. The middle sector is quick. It's a 23-second dead, but he gets over the grass. Now that might be the end of that lap. Now, it wasn't too much of a bad mistake, and in the race, I'd hardly bat an eyelid to that. But in terms of actually keeping the lap time quicker than his previous laps, that's definitely not what he wants to be doing. Let's see what the lap is anyway. He's crossing the line now. Well, it was quicker. It was quicker than Gogo Baldi, actually. So Richard Schaefer, despite the mistake, puts himself up to 5th in the order. Right, look in the track now. Just go back a bit and end the session there. Gogo Baldi, however, is on track. I don't know whether he's on an out lap or not, as Damien Lempart sets his personal best in the 3rd sector, and I think improves his quickest lap there. He does not. So that was a quicker 3rd sector, but he was slower in the 1st and 2nd. Also, Gogo Baldi's lap has proven to be an out lap, because that's a slow 1st sector time. So, but Baldi has not on a flying lap at the moment. Who else is out on track? Justin Brugge is heading out for one last stint. Just exiting the pits now. Dario Andreoni is on a lap, but it hasn't been a particularly impressive first sector yet, so that will not be quick from him. However, Ruben Benici has put in a quick second sector, so let's follow Ruben Benici here as he is attempting to put himself up the order. He's also run over the grass there, as we saw Richard Schaefer doing just now. And Benici, of course, trying to move his way up the grid from 12th position where he is now and put himself further up the order. Of course, again, this is only practice, so it doesn't matter too much, but let's see what he can do anyway. He crosses the line. It's not a quicker lap, so he puts himself about a tenth down on his fastest, although his second sector was his personal best. And that means he will have to settle for now for that 12th position. Gergo Baldi has gone quicker in the first sector, so he's put in a personal best in the first sector, and Baldi Baldi is just going quicker again in the second sector. So Baldi quicker in the first sector, quicker in the second sector, and Baldi is on a quick lap here. So let's see where this puts him. He's only at the moment about 600ths of a second behind Richard Schaefer in terms of best laps, but he's put two wheels over the grass, and that could really hamper his lap here. He's got a bad run over the line, and indeed his lap was about a tenth of a second down, so he doesn't improve his lap. Probably would have done if he hadn't put two wheels on the grass there. Again, note this doesn't affect him too much because this is only practice. However, he will not get another attempt because there is now about a minute remaining in the practice session, and that's not enough. That's not enough time to get round and set another lap, unless. No, it looks as if this first sector's off anyway. Damien Lampart and Justin Barucki have both put in personal bests in the second sector. Barucchi's was slightly faster, so I believe that out of these two laps, Barucchi will be the driver to watch. He's currently in 7th position, but making his way out of clearways now in Clark Curve to finish the lap. Let's see what Barucchi's lap is. It is his personal best, but he doesn't quite move ahead of Lampart. He keeps in 7th position, and Lampart also sets his personal best, but stays in 6th position, so does not pass Gergo Baldi, who is the car ahead of him. And we now are very rapidly approaching the checkered flag in this practice session. Checkered flag has just fallen, so that means that the practice session is over, and we are going to very quickly head into a qualifying lap, a qualifying session rather. Oh, and my name's been put to the top of the order. That's helpful. That's good to see. Never mind. Anyway, qualifying starts now, and the first driver on track is Risto Capit. So Risto Capit, who was top of the practice order, is first out in qualifying, and that means that he is going to aim to cement his fastest lap early in the session. The session is a 15-minute time session, so not really that much time to put in a quick lap, and you have to make sure that your laps go well, and you don't make too many big mistakes, because you might well not get another good chance. So plenty of pressure on these drivers now. There are a couple of other drivers on the track at the moment as well. We have Richard Schaefer just following Risto Capit around. Schaefer, of course, was high in the practice order. Clinton Falzen's on track. Sandro Zara is on track. Gary Serafian's on track. Gergo Baldi is on track. Kevin Siggy's on track. Plenty of people are on track now. in fact, there are very few people in the pit. In fact, no one's in the pit. So now all cars have gone right out, right at the start of this session, and all cars are on track here. So, on to the first flying lap. Go, Risto Capit and Richard Schaefer. Schaefer right behind Capit, and on a track like this where there aren't too many long straights, I can imagine that's going to be a hindrance to Schaefer, because it means that he's not going to get the clean air that he'd have wanted, and that means that on this next straight he would probably be quicker than Risto Capit ahead of him because of the slipstream, but through the corners Capit will be creating all sorts of turbulence and causing Schaefer's car behind to lose grip generated by the aerodynamic front splitter and rear wing. And that will not be doing Richard Schaefer's lap much good. But for Risto Capit, he is just trying to set the fastest lap that he can. So far, the fastest in the first sector has been Kevin Siggy, but the fastest in the second sector has been Risto Capit. So Siggy and Capit, and now Baldi as well, are all going for the fastest lap of the race. Baldi, Siggy and Capit's laps so far have been virtually identical. Capit possibly 2/10 down on the other two, but Capit is going to be the first driver through to set a flying lap. So let's see what Capit's lap is as he crosses the line. Now it's a 125.2, so definitely time for improvement. Richard Schaefer behind him puts in a 125.360. And Kevin Siggy puts it to the top of the order. So Siggy goes to the top with a 124.899, and Gergo Baldi puts it second. So it's Siggy, Baldi, Capit, Schaefer and Lempart. As Lempart crosses the line behind them, who round out the top five for now, followed by Baruki, Serafian, Falzon, who has had a spin at turn 1, and then Sandro Zara. And those are the top 10 so far. But Kevin Siggy is again trying to cement his lap time as he goes fastest again in the first sector. So Kevin Siggy on another flyer here. He's already at the top of the leaderboard, but he wants to be even further ahead. He wants to just have even more of a safety buffer to make sure that absolutely no one is going to knock him off his perch, and that he can have that pole position that is all important at the start of this race. Let's see what the second sector times are like. Capit and Lempart are also on quick laps here, as well as Baruki, Vela and Serafian. They're all on very quick laps this time around. Risto Capit puts his car to second in the order with a 124.980, which is less than a tenth off Siggy, who puts his car across the line now, actually slower than his fastest. So Siggy's made a mistake somewhere on that lap. Looking at the times, I believe it was in the second sector. It cost him about a tenth, and that was all it took for that lap to go from being very quick to not there. Damien Lempart is he's just put his car back up into 5th position. Justin Baruki is in 6th place at this precise moment, but Kevin Siggy again goes fastest in the first sector. That is the fastest first sector time that we have seen so far this session. Just as he set last lap, just as he set the lap before. And he's also gone fastest in the second sector. So Siggy is on an absolute fly, but he goes over the gravel, and that's going to completely bite his lap. And that's a big shame, because that was going to be such a good lap to put Richard Schaefer to fifth position, and Lempart goes to 4th. And now spins. Does he reach the barrier? Not quite. So not any damage from that, but of course it would have damaged his tyres, so he goes back to the pits rather than continuing on a pointless set of tyres, and he will probably go out and have another attempt right now. Indeed he does. There he goes. Hani Al-Sabdi is on his first flying lap at the... Oh no, he's on his first out lap at the moment, so... Or rather, he's on an out lap at the moment. It looks as if he didn't set a lap when everyone else did. So Al-Sabdi is the only driver not to have set a lap yet. And of course, we saw how quick Al Sabdi was in practice. So we are just waiting for Al Sabdi to cross the line for the first time. Yeah.
Actually, I think he was quite wise, and he left the rest of the cars and drivers warmed the track up for him so that he'll try to find the track in quite optimum temperature.
That is a good point. So it means that, of course, he's gone out onto a track which has been properly rubbered in and brought up to the right temperature. However, I would elect to go out right from the start of the session to just put down my initial lap first, because you never know what's going to happen later on in the session, and then I would keep on lapping and lapping and lapping and bringing that lap down as the track gets faster and faster. And I keep doing that throughout the session. But Al Sabdi obviously going for a different tactic at the moment, which is fine. He's actually now gone fastest in the first sector. So Al Sabdi goes fastest of anyone in the first sector, and this lap could be a flyer for Al Sabdi if he continues at that pace. So far, his fastest lap has not yet been set. Here it's registered as his out lap, which of course was 7 minutes 41.473. But of course that doesn't mean anything, because he's now on his actual lap. Also sets a relatively quick second sector time, or very quick rather. And so long as there are no late lap mistakes, this could be a very quick lap from Hadi Al Sabdi. Let's see where it puts him. He was at the top of practice. Where's he going to be on his first qualifying stint here? He's going to cross the line very shortly. It is 4th, so a good opening attempt there from Al Sabdi. Now he needs to keep on trying to see if he can put himself at the top of the order. Oh, and talking of the top of the order, that goes to Kevin Siggy now. So Siggy is up the top of the order from Risto Capit by a 10th. Still plenty of time left. Absolutely plenty of time left. 5 minutes. Of course, that's enough time to get out and do 2 or 3 laps. But if those 2 or 3 laps are messed up or caught up in traffic, then you lose, I'm afraid. So the pressure will definitely be on the drivers, as I say that, Kevin Siggy has a slight off, so this lap will not be quicker from Kevin. Just looking down the order to see if anyone is going faster than their previous laps. Clinton Falzon is. He, of course, is. Oh, never mind. This is an out lap. So Clinton Falzon was going faster on his last lap before he came into the pits, and that was still registering on the live timing. So Falzon is not going faster on this lap. But someone who is Garo Sarafian. So Sarafian is going faster in the second sector. That's a 23.2 in the second sector, which is only about 2/10 off what the quickest guys have been doing. And this could be a quick lap by Sarafian standards. Let's see as he crosses the line here. He's 8th so far, and he does improve on his lap but stays 8th. So he's still about half a second behind. Well, about 4/10 of a second, rather, behind Justin Baruki, ahead of him. Of course, the 2 Sim Racing Middle East drivers, that is, in 7th and 8th. But still no improvement in terms of actual position, as Hadi Al Sabdi puts in the quickest second sector time so far this race. Goes quickly in the first sector as well. Not his personal best in terms of first sector, but his second sector is a session best with a 22.9. And this is a promising lap from Hadi Al Sabdi, who is top of the practice leaderboard. So let's see what he can do in the final sector. He only has 1 corner to go, which is Clark Curve. He's rounding it now, and as he crosses the line, it is top. So Hadi Al Sabdi puts his car at the top of the order for now with a quick Sector 1, Sector 2 and Sector 3. and Al Sabdi sets a 1:24.694, very quick lap. He's also going out for one last stint. Who else is on a lap? Well, Siggy was, but Siggy is now pitting, so obviously he made a mistake. In the third sector, Gergo Baldi was also going to be on a lap, but he's crashed in the final corner, so that's not going to be any quicker from Gergo Baldi. Unfortunately for him, Dario Andreoni is going quicker than his best time. He goes up to 8th, so demotes Garo Sarafian. Andreoni sets a lap about half a tenth of a second faster than Garo Sarafian, so that's really the difference that a slight amount of time can make in terms of how they can affect your times. And actually, Gergo Baldi's accident there might well have been quite significant, because if he had put a faster time in there, that might have been his last chance to. He's only got one last chance left in this session to actually set a quicker lap, but he's come out right behind some traffic, and he's just bitten some life out of his rear tyres with that big slide there. So Gergo Baldi might well be in a bit of trouble here. He needs to drop back. If he drops back on this outcome, of course he can't afford to drop back too much, because he might actually not cross the line in time. Actually, he's got plenty of time looking at the time he got left, but he will only have one lap time left, so he needs to drop back from those cars I can see up the road to avoid catching them on his lap and getting stuck behind them. Risto Capit is on a quick lap. Watch this as he comes through the final sector of the course. He's coming through Surtees now, the left-hander, 90 degrees. And now he's going to go through the dip towards Clark Curve and Clearways, and then let's see what his time will be as he crosses the line. It's been a quick first and second sector. Oh, it's quicker, but he stays third. So, oh dear, look at the times we have. Oh dear, we have the top 3 cars there separated by less than 6 hundredths of a second. So a lot less than a tenth of a second. We have Hani Al Sabdi at the top with a 1:24.694. Kevin Siggy in second with a 1:24.930. And Risto Capit in third with a 1:24.752. So really no difference in times there. Or really not much difference in times. And that is what a thousandth of a second can do. As qualifying draws to a close, and I believe it ended early there. So there was still about 10 minutes left, or 10 seconds left on the time sheet there, and qualifying ended. But anyway, that puts Hani Al Sabti at the top of the order, followed by Kevin Siggy, Risto Capit, Gergo Baldi, Richard Schaefer, Damien Lempert, Justin Barucchi, Garo Sarafian, who's moved back ahead of Dario Andreoni, who qualifies 9th. Dario Andreoni. Brandon Tabone is 10th, and then it's Bernard Vella, Omar Barbara, Ruben Benici, Clinton Falson, and Sandro Zara. So that is qualifying. A great pole lap from Hani Al Sabdi. And now we are going for a short break for about 9 minutes before the start of the actual race.
They called it madness. Building the car of your dreams yourself. Madness. Putting the engine in the back. Madness. Launching a turbocharged super sports car in the midst of a worldwide oil crisis. Madness. Taking a sports car into the desert and taking the insights gained there back onto the streets. Madness. Building the first hybrid car on Earth. And when its time had come, the fastest one on Earth. Once more, they called it madness. Let them call it madness. We call it courage. The courage to build a sports car with 4 business class seats. The courage to upgrade not only the driving, but also the driver. The courage to transfer an unmistakable design DNA and create a luxury saloon that was born on the racetrack and is at home on the roads. The new Panamera. Courage changes everything.
Volkswagen. Gigabit Internet issa f'Malta. Gawdi mill-Giga Power biss mal-Malita Flexi.
Black of peas came to make it hotter. We beat the fire starter. Bubbling up just like lava. Heated like a sauna. Penetrating through your body armor. Rhythmically we massage ya.
So we're just like 2 minutes 20 seconds away from the start of the race of this first round of the Continental Cars Limited Porsche Cup, brought to you by Sim Racing Malta. We had a quite exciting qualifying session, and we saw some good times registered by top drivers, and we'll soon be going live with the race in 1 minute 45 seconds. So the starting grid will be like this. We have Hani Al Sabti in pole position, then followed by Kevin Siggy, Risto Capit, Gergo Baldi, Richard Schaffer, Damien Lampart, Justin Barucchi, Garo Sarafian, Dario Andreoni, Brendan Tabone, Bernard Vella, Omar Barbara, Ruben Bonnici, Clinton Falzon, Sandro Zara, and that's it. That's our starting grid for today.
I should also point out that if I miss anything, I appear to have a glitch and I can't actually see the skins of the cars, which means it's going to be quite difficult to for me to commentate on this first lap of the race when they're all bunched around each other, because they all look like the same car for me. So, well, I'll need luck with this, but let's hope for not too much of a panicked start. So, as Adrian said, Hani Al Sabdi is at the front of the order. Look at the lights on the screen. When they come on, the drivers will let their engine revs rise, and then when they go off, we will be racing. Let the season commence! Hani Al Sabdi gets away in the lead of the race. He moves over to defend from Kevin Siggy in second as they head through. It's Risto Capit in second now. So Capit gets the inside and takes second from Kevin Siggy. Is everyone through this? Oh dear, look at this. The top three almost go 3 wide into Druids there. That was close. Almost thought about going 3 wide, but decided against it. And it is still Hani Al Sabdi leading from Risto Capit and Kevin Siggy. So, someone's off in the background. Who is that? It's Damien Lampart. Is it? No, it's Gary Sarafian. So Sarafian has been off. He has got going again, but he appears to be driving rather slowly, just getting the car back up to its rightful pace again, as Sabdi leads it around the top part of the circuit from Capit and Siggy. Who is in fourth? That's Gergo Baldi, and fifth appears to be Richard Schaefer. It is indeed. So Schaefer is in fifth place. Actually, no, he isn't. Damien Lampart is ahead of him. So Lampart is in fifth place now, and that is the order on this, the opening lap of the race. Through the final corner we come, and across the line at the end of this, the first lap of the race, and the order is Al Sabdi, Capit, Siggy, Baldi, Lampart, Barucchi, Andreoni, Schaefer, Tabone, Falzon, Vella, Barbara, Benici, Sara, and Sarafian. So that is the order after the first lap. Sarafian, of course, getting forced out at Green Hill. I didn't exactly see how that happened, but very unfortunate for him to find himself at the back of the order. All right, so the cars have settled into their positions now. Who will be the next driver to have a full-on attack? It might well come up the front of the order, because the gap for the lead is still just 0.4 of a second. That's less than half a second, obviously. And they say that if you're within half a second of the car in front, you full-on attack them. So Risto Capit will be full-on the attack on Hani Al Sabdi in front of him. So Al Sabdi is leading around, but for how long can he hold off Risto Capit? Capit, of course, very, very fast on the Bathurst qualifier server, so obviously has shown his potential, but has to show it again in a whole different way now, with this being a race rather than just a hot lap comparison. And let's see what the gap is this time around. It's 5 tenths, so it's come out by a tenth on that lap. But don't let that make you think that the battle is over, because there is plenty of time to go. 56 minutes, over 56 minutes, over 56 and a half minutes remaining in this race here. And of course, when the gap for the lead is still just half a second, that proves that there is still plenty of time for things to change, and that the race is still very, very close. Oh, spin! Ruben Benici is off. So Ruben Benici is off at the side of the road. Where is that? That is just coming out. Oh, that's going into Graham Hill. He's actually parked in a very unusual place, at the inside of the road. And I'm not entirely sure whether he has spun or whether he's parked it there, because that would be a very unusual place to go off. So I didn't see that how that happened. But anyway, Ruben Benici is off the road and doesn't appear to be going anywhere. So that might well be Ruben Benici's race over here, which it would be a big shame so early on in the race, especially so early on in the for this the season. They've been gearing up for this for absolutely ages, and yet some of them, unfortunately, will end the race quite early. The gap for the lead is now 6, almost 7 tenths of a second between Al Sabdi and Capit. So the gap is coming out and out and out as Baruki and Schaefer go side by side into turn 1, and Baruki comes out on top in 6th position. So Baruki and Schaefer having a battle over 6th position there, and it's Baruki who holds it for now, although Schaefer is all over his rear end, this way and that, and running slightly wide now and over the grass. So that's going to cost Schaefer a bit of momentum, and possibly give Baruki the advantage as we head out towards the back straight now. But Schaefer does get a very good run out of that corner, so let's see what he can do down this back straight here. Does he get close enough to challenge? No, he doesn't. Again, it's quite a short straight followed by a very fast corner second, but slightly closer than it was last time around, and that proves that Capit has just settled into the rhythm, the place where spin, big slide sideways from Richard Schaefer in 7th position. He of course was attacking Justin Baruki very recently, but has had a big slide, and that's dropped him off the back of Baruki's car, and that is a shame. Meanwhile, Ruben Benici has indeed retired from this race, so Benici is out, and that's a big shame. Here's our first retirement from Sim Racing Malta. Of course, not from the entire championship, obviously, but from this race in particular. And of course, the first race is the one that excites the drivers most, so it's always disappointing to end the race even before the first pit stop. So it's Hani El Sabdi leading the race after another lap of the race, after roughly 7 minutes rather, followed by Risto Capit, who actually dropped back half a second on that lap, so possibly made a slight mistake. Looking at the times, it was in the it was just a collection of all of the sectors. So Capit just putting in a slower lap than Hani El Sabdi, and coming across the line 1.1 seconds behind him. Kevin Siggy is slightly closer to the back of Risto Capit than Capit is to the back of Al Sabdi. So really, the battle we should be watching now is the one for second between Capit and Siggy. And behind them is Gergo Baldi, Damien Lempart, Justin Baruki, Richard Schaefer, Dario Andriani, Brandon Tabone, and Clinton Falzon. So where is the next attack going to come from? There are 2 cars side by side here, Baruki and Schaefer, again for 6th position, and Schaefer is going to try to hold it around the outside, and that would be a very bold move. He's actually kept himself alongside on the exit. Can he? He's going to sweep his way around the outside. That is an amazing move. to go around the outside of 2 tight corners up the top end of the circuit. And to be honest, Baruki will be feeling quite embarrassed that he let that go there, because Richard Schaefer was probably not close enough to attack. But Schaefer obviously found himself attacking, got the slipstream I expect, and popped his way through. And then he's just managed to hold his way around the outside. Oh, actually gets over the curb a bit, and he doesn't want to do that too many times. But Schaefer has just managed to pop his way through into 6th position in the race, and you see the confirmation as the order changes as they cross the line there, as Baruki goes relatively wide at Paddock Hill that time around. So gaps. The gap for the lead is 1 second. The gap for second is 1.6 seconds. The gap for third is 2.1 seconds, but the gap for fourth is much closer. It's less than 0.8 of a second, and that is where the next battle likely will be. That is, of course, between Gergo Baldi in 4th position and Damien Lempart in 5th position. And Lempart has been easing his way closer to Baldi as the race has gone on. Dropped back from him on the first lap, but he's been getting closer and closer ever since. And oh yeah,
Josh, what's good to say also, it's like in 5 minutes time the pit window will open, which will stay open for 10 minutes, where all drivers are obliged to pit in and refuel or change the tires.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first 10 minutes of the race have already transpired, and that means, as you just heard from Mr. Figolo there, that the mandatory pit stop time will take place from 5 minutes from now until 15 minutes from now. So, of course, the drivers have to make a mandatory pit stop in that time, regardless of whether they've made a pit stop before or not. Sometimes drivers will have to make pit stops earlier on in the race due to damage, but if you do that, then it will not count as your pit stop, and you will have to do it again between 45 minutes and 35 minutes. And there's really 2 main options that the drivers can go for here, which is to, number 1, change tyres in the pits, which of course will cost more time than not changing tyres in the pits, although you do have to do something to the car, so they will be probably repairing damage or refueling the car or something like that. Or they will change tyres and therefore go out on a softer or a newer rather set of compounds. And someone very reliable was saying to me before the race that if you do go for a new set of tyres, to make up the same sort of advantages you would without changing tyres, you'd have to gain 0.4 seconds per lap, which is entirely doable on newer tyres. So there really is a balance between whether you do change tyres or whether you don't change tyres, and it takes an experienced strategist to make the right call a lot of the time. A stop just for fuel will take approximately 9 seconds. A stop to change the tyres as well will take approximately 20 seconds, or at least those are the times I've been told. And that means that, of course, initially you may come out in traffic if you do change tyres in the stop, but you will go faster in the second stint. So there's really a balance, as I've said, between how much time you lose in the pits and how much time you lose on the track. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead came down to less than 1/10 of a second last time around. However, the time, or rather 2 laps ago, or however on the last lap, it was back out again to 1.2 seconds. So the gap is kind of hovering around the 1 second gap, as we've often seen it do. Although Capit actually lost quite a lot on that lap. It's now come out to 1.6 seconds. So Al Sabdi has started to really run away with it again. Although 1.6 seconds, still no room for error. If Al Sabdi is to make a big error, Capit will be right back on his rear end again. And that means that Al Sabdi still needs to keep it clean. Talking of clean, Capit runs slightly over the grass there, but everything's fine. So so far. And looking down the order, I believe that it's been a relatively clean race so far. Now, I don't want to jinx that, but we still have all 15 cars running because Ruben Benici has emerged from the pits again. So Benici teleported back to the pits earlier on in the session and actually left the server. So I'm wondering whether it was connection issues that hampered Ruben Benici. And that's a big shame if that is the case, because he's now several laps down. In fact, he's done 2 laps and everyone else has done 9. So that is how much that's affected Ruben Benici. He's 7 laps down, and he's really just treating the rest of this race now as a test session, which is a big shame for him, as everyone here wants to race and everyone wants to do well. But unfortunately, that just didn't happen today for Ruben Benici, and it will be interesting to see if I can find out what happened to him after the race, possibly in the interviews or just otherwise. But anyway, a big shame nonetheless. The track temperature here today is 26 degrees Celsius, which is relatively high. The air temperature is 17 degrees Celsius, and that is pretty much your average warm day here in Great Britain. Of course, this track based in Kent, and that means that while the tyres will not be properly overheating and going to their absolute optimum temperature, they're certainly not going to be with a lack of grip today, and that will be, well, the drivers will like it, because there's nothing better than driving a car when it's handling exactly how you want it to.
So actually now the pit window is open. The pit window is open. All cars need to pit in the next, actually, 9 minutes 30 seconds.
So who will be the first to duck? Who is going to pit first? It'll be interesting to see, because all drivers must pit in the as Adrian said, in the next, well, it'll be 9 minutes and 45 seconds now. So 9 minutes and 15 seconds rather. So plenty of time to make a pit stop. And Damien Lempart is the first to come in. So Damien Lempart from 5th position pits his Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car from 5th position, and stops it in his box there. That, of course, puts Richard Schaefer up into 5th position, but of course that is all very provisional, as the pit stop stages are a real sort out for these drivers, and they can really, well, the order tends to slot back into its natural state after a certain amount of time. Now, that seemed like quite a short stop, so I don't know whether Lempart changed tyres there. I don't know if he... I don't think he did. I don't think he did. So, Damien Lempart possibly not having changed tyres. It's very hard to tell.
So, Joshua, actually, it is like, you know, they're running on hard tires, so I think very few drivers will opt to change their tires, because the hard compound tires will definitely last for the whole race.
Right, that's entirely true. I was told before the race that some people were going to elect to change the tyres, but that might well be different. I wasn't aware that we were running with the harder compound of tyre here, but in that case, that means that the pit stops will all be sort of the same length, so it'll all be about when you pit and what sort of traffic you come out into, rather than what you do when you're in the pits.
So actually, this is obviously a choice now of the strategy the drivers will be using for the pits, if they're going just for refueling, what amount of fuel they went out with, and obviously how much fuel they need to refuel in their pit stop. So it's actually a strategy which definitely will be different from all the drivers.
Meanwhile, I don't think that strategy worked very well for Damien Lempart at all, because he has actually just been passed on that lap by Omar Barbara, who of course hasn't pitted yet, but Lampard is lapping faster than Barbara, and that means he is getting significantly held up by the car ahead. Of course, it's very difficult sometimes to judge when you're going to come out in traffic and when you aren't. So Lampard, I believe, has sort of shot himself in the foot there a bit, which is a shame. But let's see what he can recover from that, and if he can find his way back past Omar Barbara, and if so, how quickly he can do that. Not many people have really pitted yet. I'm not entirely sure if there's any way I can check, but I think that the only person who's pitted so far, at least from the top part of the order, has been Damien Lampard. And not many people appear to be ducking into the, or no one apparently appears to be ducking into the pits on this lap, apart from Omar Barbara, and that is going to release Damien Lampard. So Lampard is released again as Barbara pits, and Barbara becomes the second stopper of the race.
Third one actually.
Third, okay. Is the other one Ruben Benici? Because of course Benici went back to the pits early on in the race after having some sort of issue.
Yeah, the other one is actually Clinton Falson.
Clinton Falson, okay, that's where he's down the order. So Falson has also stopped, and he's just run over the grass a bit there on the extra Surtees. But that is the stopper for this lap. So Barbara was our pit stopper that time around, as Hani Al Sabdi avoids the pit lane and goes around for another lap. Of course, you can't keep lapping past the 35-minute left board, because when the 35-minute left board comes out, that means that you've missed your opportunity. You need to be in the pit lane by then, otherwise you'll be penalised, and I believe it'll be a disqualification, or at least a very harsh penalty for drivers who do miss that time. Probably a stop go for that, unless you do it significantly or entirely, in which case I wouldn't be surprised to see the disqualification being applied. Now, Dario Andrioni is in the pits this time round, as is Brandon Tabone and Garo Serafian. So we're seeing plenty more pit stoppers this time around than we did before. And now we only really have a handful of drivers left to make their mandatory pit stops. Not much time left to do it either. Only really one more lap you can stay out now. So it'll be this lap or the next for Hani Al Sabdi, I reckon. And does he elect to do it this lap? No, he doesn't. So Al Sabdi stays out for another time around, and that means he can probably afford to stay out for one more lap after this as well, if he doesn't make any big mistakes. So Al Sabdi either going to pit this lap or the next. I know I said that last lap, but that definitely applies this lap, I'm pretty sure. As I sneeze again, she's got a bit of a cold today, never mind. Capit and Siggy have also stayed out on that lap, as well as Richard Schaefer and Gergo Baldi, so the drivers up the front of the order still staying out. Oh, and Justin Barucki has actually got past Gergo Baldi on that lap. So I believe that was on track, because Baldi has not stopped yet, as far as I know, so that means that Barucki has demoted Gergo Baldi, and Barucki is up into 5th place for now, although that will change once the pit stops come into play, or once they've all finished rather. Bernard Vella is in the pits. Someone else is in the pits as well. It's Ruben Benici in for his mandatory stop. So Benici stops his car. Of course, he is about 6 or 7 laps down himself, and that is, well, as I said, he's just using this race as a test session now, and only pitting then to make sure that he didn't get disqualified. So Benici just exits the pits now, making the most of a disappointing day. And Hani Al Sabdi stays out for another lap. So this lap will be the lap that Al Sabdi, Capit, and Siggy pit. No, Siggy's in this lap. So Siggy is in. Siggy is already in the pits. He stops his car there. And Richard Schaefer is also bringing his car in. So Siggy and Schaefer bring their cars into the pit lane, and they stop them in the box. And Siggy he's actually come out just behind someone. No, just in front of someone. Never mind. I believe that's one of the drivers who is a lap down. Justin Barucki also brings his car into the pit lane, and I believe that's all of our stoppers except for the guys right up the front of the order. Haniel Sabdi, Risto Capit. Yeah, Haniel Sabdi and Risto Capit, who are the two drivers I do not believe have stopped. Now, if I was Capit, I might have tried to go for the undercut to get out of the turbulent air of Al Sabdi's car ahead. Not that he'll be getting much of it, seeing as he's 1.8 seconds behind. And pit the lap before Al Sabdi does, just to try and get onto the second stint earlier. Then again, if refueling comes into play, it might be wise to pit later, because then you get to put in the faster laps before you pit, and probably possibly come out ahead of your rivals. Now, who will come out ahead here? Because Al Sabdi and Capit are both in the pits. Al Sabdi and Capit have both stopped their cars in the pits, and Al Sabdi gets away in front. So Al Sabdi is still leading the race as they exit the pit lane, and Capit does still come out in second position there, as Kevin Siggy crosses the line in third. So the order is still, or the order after the pit stages, as the end of the mandatory pit window is ending now, is Al Sabdi leading from Capit, Siggy, Baldi, Schaefer, Lempart, Barucki, Vella, Tabone, and Andrioni. So that's the order, and those are the drivers in the first Sim Racing Malta event, the first championship Sim Racing Malta event. And the gap for the lead, I believe, is going to come out, because Al Sabdi appears to have much more of a gap over Capit than he did before the pit stop there. So Al Sabdi certainly leading this race by a comfortable margin. Now, he needs to just make sure he keeps lapping and making sure that he doesn't make any silly errors, and he should be able to bring the car home at the front, so long as there are no accidents. Possibly, I mean, I've seen accidents before caused by backmarkers that the leaders can do absolutely nothing about, but it's still taken out significantly high drivers in terms of the order on track, and that's always by far one of the most disappointing ends to a race, especially if you are fighting over a race win like Al Sabdi, Capit and Siggy are. Now, I'm very much hoping that doesn't happen. It probably will now I've said that, being a commentator, but hopefully it very much doesn't. The gap for the lead was 3.6 seconds as they crossed the line that time around. So Al Sabdi is 3.6 seconds ahead of Risto Capit. Then there's a 2.3 second gap back to Kevin Siggy, followed by about a 6 second gap back to Gego Baldi, and then a 12 second gap back to Richard Schaefer. So the gaps have come out a bit, except for 5th and 6th, as Schaefer is being chased down by Damien Lempart, who is in 6th position at the moment, and that is the battle for 5th place, which has less than 7 tenths in it. So the battle for 5th could change with any small mistake from Richard Schaefer. Of course, this isn't really a track for overtaking, but it still takes place, as we saw earlier in this race, from I believe it was Richard Schaefer on Garo Serafian. Very good double overtake, or very good move rather, around the two corners at the top end of the track. Still quite amazed that it worked, actually. To be honest, Sim Racing Malta has a knack of producing really good overtakes, doesn't it? Because I remember in the GT3 casual race we did as well, we had a very good double overtake from Alessandro Grech, almost putting himself on the grass, trying to pass two identical Porsche GT3 cars, and that was very entertaining to watch. So definitely a case of spectacular overtakes coming from this series, and we hope to see hope to see more of that as the series progresses. Meanwhile, the gap for 5th has come out a bit, as we see Lampard getting over the grass slightly. It has come out to about 1.2 seconds. So Lampard just kind of hanging back behind Richard Schaefer at this moment, but plenty of time still to go. We often see some drivers kind of lifting off or not really lifting off, but backing away from the car ahead for a lap, then attacking for a lap, then backing off for a lap, then attacking for a lap, just trying to catch them when they least expect it. And that's a tactic we often see in sim racing Malta, as well as sim racing in general and racing in general. So we might well be seeing that now from Schaefer and Lampard. We saw it earlier from Al Sabdi and Capitas. They were trading lap times, but of course Capitas dropping back a bit now. Although traffic might well come into play later on in this race as well, because Al Sabdi, of course, is so far ahead of the rest of the pack. He might well encounter some lap traffic as the race goes on, and that could really hamper his time if they don't get out of the way in time, which unfortunately isn't always the case. I mean, it's not always the case that they get out of the way on time. So let's hope that they do when that does happen. The car's just streaming through for another lap. The closest battles appear to be the one for 5th place between Richard Schaefer and Lampard, and then the one for 8th between Vela, Andrioni and Tabone. They're quite close on track, as well as Garo Sarafian and Omar Barbara are. And those are the significant battles on the track at the moment. Although at this stage in the race, right bang splat in the middle of the race, we've actually only just passed the halfway point in the race, which happened about 30 seconds ago. It's all about just following the car in front, making sure you don't drop back too much as Hani Al Sabti gets 2 wheels over the grass like that. We've seen a couple of drivers doing that through Graham Hill Bend there, but you can't afford to do that too much. Sometimes you really get dirt on the tyres, and that can affect you through the next couple of corners. But gets away with it this time, seemingly. Just taking a quick drink of water there. We have close battle going on for 8th, as I said. Vela, Andrioni and Tabone still just following each other around. As I said, it's all about following the car in front, making sure you don't drop back too far from them, and making sure you don't make any silly errors and go off or damage your car or drop back even further. And that is what these drivers are trying very much not to do at this point in time. For Al Sabti, it's all just about keeping his nose clean and driving it round, just whiling the laps away up the front of the order there. One more lap, one more lap, one more lap, one more lap. Gone, 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 gone. And he's still lapping strong.
So actually, the first 15 cars, in this case, obviously, we have 15 cars here, will get points in this championship. Starting obviously from the first place, 20 points, 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, and then keep on going down to 1 point.
And that is probably why Rupert Medici is so intent on continuing in this race, because it means that everyone who finishes does get championship points, and that can really help you later on in the championship, because we're expecting more entries, a larger grid size later on for some of the events later on in this series, and that means that by the time that happens, of course, we'll have bigger grids, and it will be harder to score points. So
Yeah, actually, you're right. We had obviously a larger grid, but obviously we had the last minute drop-offs, as it does happen quite sometimes. Actually, for the qualifying sessions, we had over 23. We had 30 cars in the qualifying session, but obviously some people had clashing dates with other races, or obviously in some personal commitments, and they dropped off in the last minute.
Which is a big shame, but of course we are expecting a bigger entry list for the races later on in this season. And as I was saying, that means that it will be harder to score points then, and that means that any extra points you can pick up early in the season will come in very, very valuable and very, very handy later on in this season. So, couple of drivers we're still waiting for.
Yes, and then now we see obviously there is Bernard Vell and Dario Andreoni. Dario Andreoni fighting for the 9th place, which is they are very close together right now, so it's a good.
Oh, I tell you what, Andreoni's left his braking late into Druids and has gone for a full-out attack around the outside. Initially, I thought he was just trying to avoid running into the back of Vella, but he's full-on made the move around the outside of Druids. Kept his car right where he needed to, up the inside of Graham Hill, and he's actually got that place. So Dario Andreoni up into 8th place past Bernard Vella, and I'm very surprised that actually worked. You very rarely see moves around the outside of hairpins, but it very much did work around the outside of Druids there. Oh, what is it with the outside line in this race? Because earlier we saw Richard Schaefer pulling off a very spectacular move around the outside of Garo Serafian there, and now we've seen another. Well, actually, at the top of the hill, rather the back end of the track, Hawthorne curve, rather than Druids there. But for some reason, the outside line appears to be where you want to be. And that is our first overtake in a while, of course. Before this, it was all about the pit stint, just getting the strategy absolutely spot on, and making sure that you have everything sorted out and your car pointed in the right direction before the final stint of the race. That was the part of the race when the drivers were taking it relatively easy. Of course, they will never take it easy because they have to complete the race in the shortest time possible still, but it's the time where they're just trying to slot into the best position that they can after the pit stages, and that means that they're not taking any unnecessary risks. But now they've started to push again, seeing that the time is ticking down and that they're still 20 minutes, 23 minutes and a half left in the race, but that time can tick very, very quick. Anyway, yes.
So actually, we also see now Hani Al-Zabti, which is has started already lapping some cars in this race, and we see also some cars in front of him. He's gonna start lapping cars on his fast race.
Okay. I see something in the chat there. Is that a track limit warning? That could be quite worrying for him. Okay, well, I do see a track limit warning in the. Well, that's Damien Lempart. Never mind. So Damien Lempart has got a track limit warning. I don't believe there's a penalty applied yet. The game does automatically apply some penalties. For example, for crossing the pit exit line, but as Al-Sabti laps another car, he gets out of the way rather nicely there. The gap for the lead is 6.1 seconds, but it's the gap for second that interested me last time round, because it does appear to be coming down slightly. It's now just at about 2 seconds, when it was about 3 seconds before. So Kevin Siggy is again just trying to reel in Risto Capit ahead of him. Although Capit is a very difficult driver to reel in, of course, being such a quick guy. And we'll see what happens with that gap later on in the race. although the gap for the lead is still coming out and out and out as Anial Sabdi extends his lead. Racing with a Dutch flag here. And I always say that the Dutch tend to be very, very good at sim racing. Hence, Van Buren's amazing pace in the world's fastest gaming competition this year. In fact, the top 3 finalists in that were Dutch, so definitely a big sim racing culture in Holland, as well as in Malta, of course. I mean, several of the drivers in this field are Maltese. We have Damien Lempart, we have Bernard Vella, Brandon Tabone, Omar Barbara, Clinton Falzon, Sandro Zara, Ruben Benici. They are all racing with a Maltese flag. And, of course, in a series aimed at getting the Maltese name into motorsport and sim racing, they are a very welcome entry to the grid. The gap for second has come down by about 4/10 on that lap. So the gap for second is coming down and down and down as Siggy is chasing Capit hard. Siggy has Capit in his sights, and he will not be letting him go until he's seen the last of him. Whether that's by demoting Capit behind him or by ending in an accident, I expect. Although many drivers will prefer definitely set third than get involved in an accident, but sometimes you really have to go in with that all or nothing approach. Although, of course, it takes a mature driver to keep their head in a situation like that. So let's see what does happen between the two of them. There is another car just getting lapped on the exit of Clearways, of Surtees there, rather. That will be Omar Barbara, I believe. So Barbara getting lapped and moving nicely out of the way. Barbara is running in 11th position at the precise point in time. Only about 2 seconds ahead of Gary Sarafian in 12th. So definitely time for that to change. Talking of change, look at the gap for second. It's coming down again. It's come down to 0.8 of a second. So that came down by about 0.6 on that lap. So Siggy is absolutely charging now on the back of Risto Capit, and he will probably be launching a full-on attack, maybe even by the end of this lap. Well, he's caught him now. The next step is to full-on attack. And, well, it's harder to pass a car than it is to catch them. So catching him is one thing, passing him is another, and we'll have to see how that happens and how he does go about attempting to get second place off Risto Capit here. An experienced eye will tell you that the best overtaking opportunity on this lap is down into Druids, as we saw Andreoni pulling off on Vella earlier. Although interestingly, in that battle, Andreoni has just pulled back into the pits, so I expect that there's been some kind of accident there, because you don't normally see people pitting this late in the race. So Andreoni has pitted his car, and hopefully everything's okay with the car now, but that has cost him plenty of positions. He's now down in 12th, so that's very unfortunate for Dario Andreoni after he pulled off that amazing overtake around the outside of Druids, and Andreoni has had to make a pit stop for whatever reason. Meanwhile, the gap for second has actually come out by a second. It's unfortunate. So it looks as if Siggy has caught Capit as much as he can do for now, and now he's got his turbulent air in effect, and that means that he's going to have to wait for Capit to make an error before he can launch another attack on Risto Capit. It was really impressive how quickly that gap did come down, and Capit would certainly have been looking in his mirrors there and thinking, my goodness, where did he come from? But Capit is still running in second, still lapping well, and still holding off Kevin Siggy. So, 17 minutes of the race to go. Definitely not much time left when we started with 1 hour. And that means that the drivers will all have to push now. They say that it's the last 10 minutes of a race when you really properly start to push. Although, when you're racing with drivers like these, that can sometimes be the last 20 minutes. And there's definitely time for anything to change here. All it takes is one little error, one little slip up, and then the driver behind will be through, and you will be history. Of course, all drivers who finish this race will score points, so it won't be a complete and utter disaster if you lose a position or two, but certainly not ideal. No one who could take 9 championship points will settle for 5. They'll push for 10. As the gap for second is again about 0.8 of a second, so it's really hovering around that area, and Siggy is really just waiting for a mistake for Risto Capit, who is running in second place, Estonia's top racing driver. Many Risto Capit fans I've met with my time on sim racing, as well, the whole of Estonia basically follows him. The whole of Estonian racing, and many people are wanting him to get good results. Of course, he is a GP Super League race winner, as well as Gergo Baldi is. Finished second in the championship this year, did Risto Capit, so definitely a very quick driver. Also looking through the Facebook comments as well, we have a couple of right. I see the name. That's just one of the viewers. I saw the name Michi Hoyer, who of course took part in one of our casual races earlier this year, and of course Hoyer, a very quick racing driver himself. Again, an ACR driver, but Hoyer not racing today, although I believe he is in the live stream. So shout out to Michi Hoyer then. I was having a conversation with Michi after the casual race, and I was asking him if he was going to try it for this series, but he said that he's more of a single-seater driver, so he wasn't really going to put much of a launch into this, as I believe the gap between Vela and Tabone came down quite dramatically that time round. Did Vela just slow? Oh yeah, he did to let through one of the quicker drivers. That was Hani Al Sabdi going through. So Vela did back off the pace slightly there, but only to let through a quicker driver, and that might actually put Tabone right on his rear end and possibly able to attack as they go down the back straight here. Maybe down through Pilgrim's Drop. It doesn't look as if he's going to get close enough. Although, talking of close enough, the gap for second that time round, in fact the gap for second is just following that battle there, and the gap for second is about 0.7 of a second, so it did come down, and Siggy is definitely still proving. Oh, he's got off! Siggy runs over the grass slightly, and that is going to affect his momentum, and that's going to possibly cost him a bit of time to Risto Capit. And will he be able to catch that time up in time for Capit to make a slight error before the end of the race? I'm not sure, because Siggy, well, could have been a lot worse, couldn't it? I mean, if Siggy had got all 4 wheels over the grass, there would have been absolutely no stopping the car. However, the gap now has come out to over a second, so Siggy lost quite a lot of time there, about 0.3 of a second. Was that Adrian? I could hear that.
So actually, yes, there is a Bernard Vella and Brendan Tabone, which are quite near each other right now in 8th and 9th place. So the fight for the 8th place,
right here with 207 seconds.
Whew, it really is. They must have been absolutely nose to tail heading through Paddock Hill this time around. I mentioned this battle last time on the last lap, but I didn't really see how close they were as they crossed the start-finish line this time around. So these two are definitely close, and well, if Tabone can get that close to Vela on the start-finish straight, who knows what he can do this time around with the whole of the lap to prepare for it, really. It might be that Tabone is running a higher, or that Vela is running a higher downforce setup, meaning that Tabone is quicker on the straight. Then again, it might also not be, but let's see what happens as we head down into turn 1 this time. There is a slow-moving car there. It's Brandon Tabone. So Brandon Tabone, well, it looks as if he moved a lot slower than Bernard Vela did. So Vela and Tabone both had to get out of the way of quicker cars there, but Tabone obviously did it a lot sooner and a lot slower than Vela did, and lost a lot less time there, as Andreoni has made his way back past Omar Barbara now. So Andreoni, of course, who had to pit earlier on in the race for an unknown reason, has made his way back up into 10th position in the race, although he was 8th before his pit stop. So he's still got 2 positions to make up before he has completely recovered what he would otherwise have got, and I don't know if he has time for that. He'll really ideally need Vela and Tabone to both make a mistake here, but Tabone really lost quite a lot of time there to Bernard Vela as they were letting the leaders through. So quite surprising, but anyway, 10 minutes remaining in this race now, so the timer ticks 10 minutes to go, and this is when it really starts to get serious, because the minutes section of the timer has ticked into the single digits, and the drivers will be feeling their race slipping away from them, and they will be feeling the pressure of just bringing the car home in the best possible position that they can. No silly mistakes at this point, chaps. So the order with less than 10 minutes to go is Hani Al-Sabdi leading from Risto Capit, Kevin Siggy, Gergo Baldi, Richard Schaefer, Damien Lempart, Justin Baruki, Bernard Vela, Brandon Tabone and Dario Andreoni. Those are the top 10. Although if we're going right back into the point scorers, we also get Omar Barbara, Garo Sarafian, Clinton Falzon, Sandro Zara and Ruben Benici, who is about 6 or 7 laps down after the first lap. Of course, the difficulty with a 1 hour timed race is that there isn't a set number of laps in the race. So before the race, the drivers have to calculate how many laps of fuel they should put into the car, how many litres of fuel they should put into the car. And of course, they have the opportunity to put in more in the pit stops as well. And I believe that most of them will have done that because they would have wanted to start the race on a light tank of fuel and then refuel the car in the pit stop and go to the end of the race, which is what most of these guys would have done, if not all of them. Well, it does mean that you have to really be careful with your calculations, because I've seen drivers thinking that the race is going to be far shorter than it actually will be in the past, and ending up running out of fuel on the final lap. And that's always the most embarrassing way to end a race, because you could have done so much about it. Tabone is right back on the tail of Vela. In fact, he had a slight look going through Druids that time around, as Vela dropped back slightly, possibly. And Tabone, of course, will be right in Vela's slipstream as we head along the back straight. So let's see if Tabone can challenge Bernard Vela at the top of the hill. Probably not, because this is again, it's a difficult place to overtake. Let's see if he can get close to Bernard Vela. Doesn't really maximise the slipstream there. Doesn't really get completely behind the car of Bernard Vela ahead, but it certainly gives it gives Vela a mirrorful. And again, this is another battle that could all change towards the end of this race. We have 7 minutes remaining now. The clock is ticking down mercilessly. this will be the point of the race where tiredness comes into play as well. It's quite late for a lot of these drivers, and they have been racing for a long time, because as well as this race, of course, we had a qualifying session, we had a practice session, and before that several of them were testing as well. So it means that it's been non-stop driving action for the best part of 3 hours for some of these guys, and that can be very, very tiring for a driver. So it's all about the drivers who can maintain their concentration at this late stage in the race and keep the car pointing in the right direction, keep it lapping and lapping at a consistent and quick speed. And it's all about who can come out on top at this point as well. A lot of drivers have compared racing to doing 5 different things at once, juggling fire while standing on a dolphin while it's swimming, humming the whole of a symphony or something like that. But for a lot of these drivers at the front of the order, it will be, or in fact throughout the order, it will be complete concentration. They won't be thinking about anything else but driving, and they'll just be letting everything else fade out of their mind, and just concentrate on the track in front of them, the next corner and the next corner, as they have been doing for 55 minutes now, and as they will have to keep doing for the next 5 minutes. It's still Al Sabdi leading from Capit, Siggy, Baldi, Schaefer, Lempert, Baruki, Vella, Tabone and Barbara, but Tabone and Vella are still very close on track. The gap that time around was almost half a second rather, so it was almost less than half a second. And Tabone is continuously applying pressure to Vella in front of him, as Siggy is to Capit for second, although admittedly not quite so close quarters. And as they round the top end of the course, the timer is almost at 4 minutes left already. Hadi Al Sabdi, meanwhile, is building out an absolutely sensational lead. Of course, he is a driver who's done a lot of sim racing. He set a couple of blistering laps I found on YouTube at the Nordschleife. I remember one which was specifically amazing when he was in McLaren MP4 12C GT3, also on a Assetto Corsa. He's done a little bit of race room, I believe, as well. Although obviously a very, very quick and very, very consistent driver. He headed qualifying, headed practice, and now he's heading the race. Three minutes and 15 seconds to go. The timer is coming down and down and down, as it obviously has been for the entire race, but I'll tell you what, for the drivers, it will never have felt so slow, especially the drivers up the front of the order.
So actually it's good that we've seen a clean race today, even on cars being labbed. All drivers respected all the rules, no penalties have been issued, let's say till now, but we are looking forward of who that's going to conclude the race in this way. So we're quite happy obviously with this type of racing on the racetrack today.
Now, I said before the race that there was probably not going to be too much car-to-car contact, because it's very difficult to follow another car at this track, and there aren't that many cars on the entry list. However, I was expecting to see more cars spat out into the scenery, versus the nature of the Brands Hatch circuit. Very difficult circuit with a lot of opportunity to make a mistake. But as you said, it obviously hasn't been happening today. So That's very good to see. Of course, this is a series for the drivers, so we want to see every driver finishing the race. And of course, every driver who finishes the race today will score championship points. Of course, we thought we lost Ruben Benici at the start of the race. He is still running. Lost about 6 or 7 laps in what I presume was a connection issue. But still circulating in 15th position. And no one else has had, as far as I've seen, so much as a spin. Now, there might well have been an accident involving Dario Andreoni earlier in the race, because Andreoni, of course, had to make a pit stop that I saw, and I still don't entirely know how that happened.
Actually, we've seen a contact now between Omar Barbara and Dario Andreoni, which is under investigation by the stewards.
Ooh, okay, I didn't see that. So obviously there's been some slight contact between Omar Barbara and Dario Andreoni. But anyway, we are now approaching the final lap of the race. I believe we are on the penultimate lap of the race this time around. The timer is ticking to 30 seconds left, so it's actually going to be rather close as to whether this is the final lap or the penultimate lap. It might be the final lap. In fact, I think it will be. So Hadi Al-Sabdi is coming around the top end of the course on the final lap of the race here. It's been an utterly dominant race from Hadi Al-Sabdi. He's 9 seconds ahead of Risto Caput in second place. And he's just kept his nose clean and kept on lapping. He's topped practice, he's topped qualifying. And now, as the timer ticks to 0, Hadi Al-Sabdi is going to round the final corner and kick off his championship in the most fantastic way he possibly can, winning the first round at Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. There he goes across the line. Hadi Al-Sabdi wins it with the best lap of the race. That's a brilliant lap to end the race on. Fastest of the race in all 3 sectors, with Risto Caput second in the race, and Kevin Siggy crosses the line in third, only about 1.1 seconds behind Risto Caput. Gergo Baldi is going to come around in 4th position to round off a very nice race from him as well. 5th is going to be Richard Schaefer, as a few lap cars cross the line. And Schaefer crosses the line as he runs over the grass on the inside slightly right now. 6th place is going to be Damien Lempart, who is crossing the line now. Actually, he's quite a long way of Justin Barucki, because that's a lapped car that was following him across the line. Of course, Justin Barucki racing for Sim Racing Middle East. Great to have an entry from all over the world here in Sim Racing Malta. We have entries in this from Estonia, Holland, Lebanon, as I've said, Germany, yeah, many different nationalities, as well as Malta. Justin Barucki crosses the line in 7th position, and Bernard Vella is going to be the last driver to cross the line, except for Clinton Falzen, who is a lap down. But Bernard Vella is going to be the last driver to finish on the lead lap of the race. To be honest, Vella was only just running ahead of Brandon Tabone, so there must have been not much of a margin between him and the leader as they crossed the line last time around, in terms of Al-Sabdi behind Vella on track. But anyway, Vella crosses the line now in 8th position to claim some good old championship points, even though my game doesn't register that he's crossed the line, interestingly. So Vella was 8th, 9th was Brandon Tabone, but a lap down, and then also a lap down were Dario Andreoni, who is of course under investigation, as well as Brandon Tabone is for some late race contact that I missed. Omar Barbara, Garo Serafian, Clinton Falzen, Sandro Zara, and then several laps down after an early race incident, unfortunately, was Ruben Benici. Anyway, I believe that we are now just waiting for some drivers to hop into the call so we can do a couple of interviews.
Yes, that's right. Very soon I'm gonna go and get the drivers into this channel. Just for the information of everybody, we have the stewards have decided to give a 10-second penalty to Omar Barbara because he was the cause of an incident. He spilled Dario Andreoni.
Right. Now, I said that it was Brandon Tabone who was under investigation. It obviously wasn't. It was Omar Barbara, but Omar Barbara has obviously been given a penalty. Does that demote him any further down the order than he was? While I wait for an answer, we have a couple of YouTube comments celebrating a few good achievements in this game. Keith Camilleri says, "Well done, Hani. Amazing pace." That's Hani Al Sabdi, who won the race, of course. Sanja Zagana, I hope I said your name right. Or Sanha Sagana, I think. Sorry. Says, bravo, Kevin Siggy. Of course, Siggy drove a very consistent race to third place. And we also have a couple of other racing drivers who have loaded into the Facebook stream as well. Kevin Samut and Clinton Falzen. Anyway, we have a couple of interviews lined up. Sorry. We have the podium drivers in here, so the 3 podium finishers. Let's go from third to first. Build up some hype. So, in third place in this race, with a very consistent race, was Kevin Siggy. Can you hear us? I believe they're all muted.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Ah, there we go. Right, okay. So the meeting stopped. Right, so Kevin, a very consistent race. Was it frustrating that you just couldn't get close enough to Risto?
Yeah, it was quite frustrating. I don't know what was the deal with my players, but in the end it got a little bit frustrating. Yeah, because I couldn't him, even though I had great pace before catching him. But yeah, I can't do everything.
Now I noticed it was interesting that Risto blasted past you at the start. It looked as if the whole right side of the grid got going quicker than the left side of the grid. Is it actually quicker here to qualify third than it is to qualify second?
No, it was just me. My car broke down at the start, so I couldn't do anything. So yeah, that I didn't get enough wheel spin at the start. I think I've released the throttle a bit too much. So yeah, that was only the issue.
Okay, so still a good race from you after that though, to finish third place. I can imagine you're rather pleased with how it went.
Yeah, I'm kind of pleased. I could have gotten second, or maybe even fight for first, but I think the pace wasn't there like Honey's was. But in the end, it was still a great result.
All right, thanks for that. Right, up to second position now with Risto Capit. So Risto, you put yourself at the top of the order in the qualifiers at Bathurst. How did you find Brands Hatch?
Well, the track a bit shorter, but just as hard, and yeah, it was hard. I think I was as fast or even faster than I was in Bathurst, but others were even faster.
Well, you heard it here, everyone. Brands Hatch just as hard as Bathurst. Okay, so I can imagine you're pleased with your race pace as well, finishing in second position. That's not bad for the start of a championship, definitely.
Yeah, it's not a disaster considering especially the points scoring system. I only lost 2 points to Honey, and yeah, well, in the weeks towards the race, I was sure I would do everything to win, but considering the pace of Honey and also Kevin, I did my best in the race, didn't do too many mistakes, and there was no way today I could have gone for the win. So yeah, I'm satisfied with what I did.
Okay, so you said you don't think you could have gone for the win. Did you think you could have possibly stuck with Hani when you were following him round before the first pit stop?
yeah, it was a big unknown what will happen in the pit stops. I thought already that I have a good thing going, not changing the tires, and I had 15 liters extra in the car to pit less. But it turned out that Hani was driving with full tanks. That's why he was so slow that I could drive behind him. And in the pits, he just stopped for 1 liter and made the distance and then pulled away. So yeah, for half a race, I was very optimistic. I was behind him. I felt good, didn't do any mistakes. But then yeah, I saw what will happen in the race. But still, it's a good result and everything's open for the championship.
I must also thank you about your interesting insight into the strategy of the race, which you sent me before the session. That was very helpful. Anyway, moving on to the eventual race winner now, Hani Al Sabti. So, Hani, you were fastest in practice, fastest in qualifying, fastest in the race. I can imagine you rather like that.
Hey, yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the result. Actually, the race was pretty hard, having Risto on my tail, like the first half of the race. And yeah, it was like drive perfect because every little mistake he will just gets closer and closer. So I had to be on the limit, but also being on the limit will require a lot of tires. So the tires at the end of the race they're almost gone. So after like 35 minutes, they start to wear down, and then the pace will drop also. And keeping the car on track is already hard enough. So I was really happy that Trista wasn't on my back, so I could just drive the car instead of fighting for the first place.
So you say that you had to conserve the tires. How much were you actually pushing towards the end of the race? Because you were still pulling out from the cars behind.
Yeah, I was checking the gap to Risto all the time, and when I had like a little gap, I started to like drive a little bit slower just to keep them on check, the tires. But when he starts to close it up, I start to push again and again, and sometimes it happens that the rear end just says no, I'm out. And yeah, you have those moments. I had them like 3 times in this race. So I had to be really careful at the end, like changing brake bias more to the front, everything to keep the rear end in check.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what was your fastest lap though. And that's a very long, which I have done before. To me, it seems like your fastest lap was your final lap.
Oh, you're breaking up, man.
Oh, am I? Oh dear.
It's good
I
now.
said, I think your fastest lap though was your final lap. So obviously you weren't really backing off much towards the end.
Well, once you burn more fuel, the car gets faster. So it's yeah, the tires give up, but the fuel gets slower and the pace increases, and eventually it evens out a little bit.
Okay, thanks for that. And in terms of championship points, well, the maximum. So I suppose you're going for the championship next.
It's a long championship, and this is just the first race. Everything can happen in the next races. I'm sure the other guys will up their pace and learn more about the car, the setup, the tires, and then eventually it's going to be a really good championship. I'm quite sure. But
Very true indeed, and it is indeed a long championship. Of course, this is only the first round of the championship held on the 19th of February 2018. Our next round of the championship is going to be held on the 23rd of February 2018, and that's going to be at Monza. So from a track with very few overtaking opportunities to a track where absolutely everywhere is a slipstreaming opportunity and therefore an overtaking opportunity. So it's certainly going to be a very, very good close round, and I would very much recommend tuning into that on the Facebook live stream, unless you're driving in it, of course. Anyone who is, but it's certainly going to be a very interesting one. Out of the three people in this call at the moment, who is looking forward to Monza the most?
I do.
What, sorry?
I do.
Good, right. Kevin Sicky got there first. He must be looking forward to it most. Yeah. It's all about top speed at Monza, of course. Making the most straight, making the fastest car in a straight line, and then just figuring out how to thrash it around the corners. Anyway, I believe that is the end of the interviews for today. I don't think we have any more coming. Feel free to jump in and correct me if that's entirely not true.
That's actually it for today. First of all, I would like to thank all our sponsors, which are Continental Cars Limited, Porsche, Melita, Textol Limited, Extreme Power Sport, Genesis, Using World, Fanatec, Sparco, and obviously Sim News TV and World of Sim Racing. We look forward now for our next race, which, as you well said, is in Monza, which is obviously another nice and exciting track. And I would like to thank you also, Joshua, for being so sharp on this commentary. And I would like to thank all the team here that you can see, and we say hello to everybody. That without them, obviously, this couldn't happen.
Absolutely, and I should also thank Sim News TV for the opportunity for that. You can see all of the staff team waving on the Facebook stream, and we will see you in the next round again, 23rd of February 2018. You can see it live on Facebook wherever you are on the globe.
Obviously, we'll see all the drivers and our followers for next week race, which we have on the 25th, which we have a casual race, another casual race, Ginetta casual race.
So again, thanks for watching this. Make sure you visit the Sim News TV YouTube channel for more cracking racing, and the Sim Racing Malta YouTube channel as well for all of our casual races, as well as the Facebook page, which also streams them. And that, I believe, is it for today. So I will see you in the next round. Goodbye until then.
They called it madness. Building the car of your dreams yourself. Madness. Putting the engine in the back. Madness. Launching a turbocharged super sports car in the midst of a worldwide oil crisis. Madness. Taking a sports car into the desert and taking the insights gained there back onto the streets. Madness. Building the first hybrid car on Earth. And when its time had come, the fastest one on Earth. Once more, they called it madness. Let them call it madness. We call it courage. The courage to build a sports car with 4 business class seats. The courage to upgrade not only the driving, but also the driver. The courage to transfer an unmistakable design DNA and create a luxury saloon that was born on the racetrack and is at home on the roads. The new Panamera. Courage changes everything.
Volkswagen. Gigabit Internet issa f'Malta. Gawdi mill-Giga Power biss mal-Malita Flexi.
Black of these came to make it hotter. We beat the fire starter. Bubbling up just like lava, heated like a sauna.